In the heart of Central Asia, where deserts shift like oceans and mountains rise like frozen time, Uzbekistan tells its story in silk, stone, and sky. And nowhere does that story begin more vividly than in the ancient city of Samarkand, a place where turquoise domes bloom above golden dust and the echoes of empires live on in tile and shadow. Here stands the Registan, 3 madrasas, their facades burning with sun-fired blues and lapis gold. From afar, they appear like gates to a lost realm. Up close, the geometric poetry of Islamic art dances across every brick, every mosaic tile, a pattern of devotion that took centuries to perfect. The arches whisper names long faded: Ulugh Beg, Tamerlane, Bibi Khanim, legends whose presence still hums in the dry wind. But Samarkand is not just stone, it breathes. In the early morning, before the tourists arrive, pigeons circle the domes like a ritual. The marble of the courtyard, still cool from the night, reflects a sleepy glow. Call to prayer drifts from a nearby mosque, low and grainy. Somewhere, an old man sweeps the square in quiet rhythm, the same way his father once did. History is not behind glass, it is underfoot. Beyond the grandeur, a slower world stirs. Children chase each other through narrow alleys lined with mulberry trees. A woman carries flatbread in a scarf like treasure. Copper merchants prepare their tiny stalls, polishing pots that look unchanged since the Silk Road was young. Even the air feels textured, smelling faintly of ash, mint, and old stone. But the blue. It returns always to the blue. The domes do not reflect the sky, they define it. And as the sun climbs higher, they shift tone, from deep sapphire to ocean green, like mood rings of memory. They are not buildings, they are echoes. And Samarkand, the voice. Stretching westward from the mountain spine of Tinshan lies the Kizilkum Desert, a vast expanse whose name means red sand in Turkic. But red is only one of its moods. At dawn, it glows peach and violet. By midday, it hardens into bone-white glare. And in the evening, it melts into copper, swallowing shadows whole. This is no empty land. It is a waiting one. The Kizilkum is not as famous as the Sahara, nor as cinematic as the Gobi. Yet within its silence lives an ancient rhythm. Nomadic trails once braided through its dunes like veins. Wild Bactrian camels still roam here, two-humped and dignified, impervious to heat. Desert foxes flash between scrub thickets. Jerboas leave brushstroke tracks in the sand, only to vanish by daylight. Wind here is an artist and an archivist. It sculpts ridges that mimic waves, buries caravan bones, and uncovers forgotten coins in dry creek beds. Sometimes, the desert reveals what it has swallowed. The ruins of Ayaz Kala, a fortress from the Kushan era, rise unexpectedly from the silence, its mud brick walls still bearing the weight of centuries. There is no fence, no ticket, just heat, stone, and wind-blown awe. Closer to the Amu Darya River, once the lifeblood of ancient Khwarezm, the desert softens. Patches of reeds and wild cotton appear. Birds nest in the arms of thorny saxaul trees. In the early morning, you might see hoofprints near a low dune, evidence of a rare goitered gazelle, ghost-like and shy. And yet, the harshness remains. Travelers in the past crossed it by camel in weeks of thirst and prayer. Today, they cross by road, fast, air-conditioned, and oblivious. But the desert remembers. It keeps the sound of hooves buried under dust. It holds the scent of sweat and smoke. It carries the sky like a secret, endless and unbroken. The Kizilkum teaches that emptiness is an illusion. It is not a void, but a vessel. Few cities wear silence so elegantly as Khiva, a fortress of sand-colored walls and stories stitched in shadow. Known as the City of 1,000 Domes and 1,000 Legends, Khiva's old town, Kala, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. But more than that, it's a time capsule. Walk through its arched gates and time folds. The noise of the modern world fades into adobe stillness. Kala is surrounded by massive clay walls, up to 10 meters high, their contours softened by centuries of wind. Inside, a mosaic of minarets, madrasas, and mausoleums bloom in desert tones: turquoise, ochre, sky blue. The Kalta Minor minaret, squat and unfinished, stands like a bookmark left in a legend. Legend says the builder planned to reach the heavens but was halted by royal envy. Its vibrant tiles now glow with sun and myth. Early mornings bring out Khiva's quieter soul. A donkey cart rumbles across cobbled alleys. Dust swirls gently in golden light. Swallows loop above wooden balconies carved with floral motifs. From a narrow window, a rustle of silk. The old silk weaving tradition lives here still, whispered between loom and hand. Yet Khiva is not frozen. Children in modern sneakers skip past 13th century gates. Local craftspeople, woodcarvers, blacksmiths, and ceramicists set out wares beneath vaulted archways. The past is not gone. It is simply layered, like plaster over brick. Beneath Khiva's streets, legend speaks of ancient qanats, underground water channels that once kept the oasis alive. Now dry, they still pulse with memory. Some say they carried not just water, but messages, whispers between dynasties, instructions buried in stone. And above it all, the wind. Khiva was once a city of caravan whispers and silk murmurs. Even today, the wind moves with purpose, slipping through corridors like an unseen guide. It carries the scent of roasted cumin, old leather, and sun-baked brick. It carries history. The mirror lakes of the mountains. In the eastern folds of Uzbekistan, where the peaks of the Tian Shan Mountains rise like the worn teeth of giants, lies a landscape far removed from the domes and deserts, the Charvak Reservoir and the Ugam Chatkal National Park, a realm of emerald valleys, limestone cliffs, and lakes that reflect the sky so perfectly they seem to trap it. The Charvak Reservoir, formed where 3 rivers meet, lies like a turquoise mirror cradled by peaks. In summer, it glows with glacier-fed clarity. In winter, mist rises from its surface, veiling its shores in mystery. The lake is more than water, its memory held in liquid stillness. Here, shepherds lead flocks past blooming poppies, eagles coast over the cliffs, and time, once again, slows. Not far from Charvak, the park opens up into alpine pastures where ibex leave marks in mud and snow. Leopards, rare and elusive, move like breath between boulders. Their presence is rarely seen, but always felt. Locals speak of them with reverence as spirits rather than animals. The mere rustle in high grass becomes a question. Was that wind or something watching? Flora thrives here in hues unknown to desert regions. Juniper forests whisper in the breeze, sheltering deer and marmots. Wild tulips, the ancestors of every European bloom, explode in color in early spring, scarlet, orange, violet, like a silent festival beneath the pines. Water runs everywhere. Glacial streams weave silver threads across the land, feeding both wilderness and ancient orchards below. In remote villages, the same channels that irrigate apricot trees are used to wash carpets, cool hands, and gather stories. At dusk, the mountains change color. Granite turns to lavender, snow picks up the pink of the setting sun, and the reservoir, now stiller than glass, becomes a canvas for all of it. In this alpine corner of Uzbekistan, the land doesn't speak loudly. It listens, and in the silence, life flourishes. The garden that feeds the wind. In the fertile heart of the Fergana Valley, where Uzbekistan's eastern borders press softly against Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, life unfolds like a tapestry, woven in fruit, folded in fields, embroidered in breath. This is not the Uzbekistan of domes and deserts, but of orchards and rivers, where the land itself seems to hum with quiet abundance. The Sirdarya River meanders through this valley like a silver thread, giving shape to fields of melons, apricots, and cotton. In spring, the valley becomes a moving painting. Peach blossoms erupt in soft pink. Apple trees shimmer in frost-white bloom, and the air is heavy with pollen and purpose. Bees hum like monks in meditation. The scent of wet earth and wild mint follows you from village to village. Fergana's towns, like Margolin, are famous for their silk. The age-old process remains tactile and patient. Silkworms fed with mulberry leaves, cocoons boiled, threads hand-dyed with pomegranate rinds, walnut husks, and indigo. The result? Atlas silk. Soft, bold, patterned like dreams. Its texture is memory, its shimmer inheritance. But the valley's gifts are not only for markets. Nature keeps some of her beauty tucked away. In the foothills near Kokand, you'll find rare red-billed choughs darting across cliffs. In reed beds near ancient canals, Eurasian otters glide silently, and in spring-fed groves, nightingales still sing at dusk, not for tourists, but for the moon. Generations live close to the soil here. You'll see elder women shaping naan bread in tandoor ovens, the crust scored with ancient symbols. Men ride bicycles balanced with baskets of plums, children chase dust trails made by sheep. And the horizon is always green, planted, tended, remembered. In Fergana, the wind does not roar. It moves like a blessing, shaking leaves, scattering petals, carrying the scent of ripeness across time. This is the land's quiet secret, that even in the simplest rhythm of planting and harvesting, something sacred grows. The sacred pools of disappearance. Hidden deep in the karst limestone of central Uzbekistan lies one of the country's most secretive wonders, Sarmishse Gorge. While often overlooked in favor of grander sites, this narrow valley near Nevoy holds over 5,000 petroglyphs etched into dark volcanic rock, scenes of hunting, dancing, rituals, a stone archive of humanity stretching back to the Neolithic. but follow the gorge further past sunburned cliffs and thorn brush, and the land reveals another secret: pools of water that vanish without explanation. In the nearby Beldersay Highlands, certain streams run loud and fast in spring, then disappear entirely into underground limestone chambers by midsummer, never reaching any known river. Locals call them whispering waters because their flow can only be heard in quiet moments. Their paths are mapped not by lines but by silence. In this cracked landscape, life clings with persistence. Rock agamas bask on sun-heated stone, blending perfectly into the backdrop. High above, griffin vultures coast effortlessly on thermal currents, tracing the gorge's length like ancient guardians. And in hidden caves, rare mosses and mushrooms bloom where light almost never touches, life born in shadow. Nomadic herders still pass through here, their presence marked by the soft jingle of goat bells and the thin thread of smoke from yurts nestled against cliffs. These people read the land differently. To them, every curve of stone, every dry streambed is a sentence in a longer story, one passed down not in books but in gesture and breath. Sarmishse is not loud, it does not demand your awe. Instead it waits, weathered and listening, for those who understand that the quietest places often speak the oldest truths. And so you sit, near a pool that reflects only sky and silence, watching insects ripple the surface, wondering if what disappears is really lost, or simply hidden where only stillness can reach it. The fire below, the sky above. There's a place in Uzbekistan where earth and flame once danced in unison, where molten power rose just beneath the crust. The Narrated Mountains and the volcanic lands of Navoy province. Though long extinct, the volcanoes left behind a strange beauty: black stone fields, ash-hardened ridges, and mineral springs that bubble with the breath of ages. But among these scorched bones of ancient fire lie green surprises. Adarkul Lake, an accidental sea formed from Soviet engineering and unpredictable floods, now stretches quietly across 3,000 square kilometers. It is an oasis in reverse, not born from nature, but claimed by it. Today, herons and pelicans glide across its shimmering waters. On its reed-lined shores, wild boar root for food at dusk. And if you're lucky, you may see the hoof marks of Asiatic wild asses, kulan, rare and elusive, vanishing into heat mirage. The Nuratau Biosphere Reserve, nearby, protects not only animals but also ancient human traditions. The tiny mountain village of Hayat shelters a conservation project for the Severtsov Argali, a wild mountain sheep once on the brink of extinction. These creatures, with their curved horns and alert eyes, now roam rocky pastures again, cautious but present. Their return is a quiet victory. The people here live as the land allows, by tending walnut trees, drying apricots on clay roofs, and weaving carpets with the colors of soil, sun, and cloud. They say the wind here knows names, that it remembers who listens and who forgets. At night, the sky above Idarkul is limitless. No cities spoil it, no lights interrupt, just constellations turning slowly, as they have over countless fires and forgotten songs. In this land where volcanoes once breathed and now sleep, life has learned to fill the silence, not with noise, but with rhythm, roots, and stars. The shrinking sea and the salt of memory. Far to the northwest, where Uzbekistan brushes the edge of Kazakhstan, lies a tragedy etched into geography. The Aral Sea, once the fourth largest inland lake in the world, now a shimmering ghost. What was once a deep blue expanse is today a salt-blown desert, cracked and dry, scattered with rusting ships that sit stranded on sand like relics of a drowned age. The town of Munich was once a bustling port, its docks busy with fishers hauling in sturgeon and carp. Today, it is miles from the water, surrounded not by waves, but dust. The sea has retreated, but its absence remains loud. The wind whistles through skeletal hulls. Children play football on salt plains where waves once crashed. And yet, the land does not give up. Efforts to regreen the region have begun. Halloxylon and saxel trees planted to stabilize the soil, to hold back the creeping desert. Bird life returns in flashes. Plovers, sandgrouse, even the occasional flamingo, drawn to new marshes, fed by human hope. Just east of Munich, the Aral Desert has become a new biome. Harsh, yes, but strangely compelling. Camels now roam where once nets were cast. Small rodents dig fresh burrows in dried riverbeds, and satellite images show ghost rivers, ancient channels of the Amu Darya that once gave life and are now sketched only in dust. In the Aral Sea Museum, one can trace the sea's story in photos and artifacts, but the real museum lies outside, in the bones of boats, the wrinkles of sand, and the silence that tells you what was lost. Still, there's a lesson in the salt, a reminder that even the grandest things, seas, empires, ambitions, are fragile, and that healing begins not with rebuilding the past, but by planting for a new kind of future. The melody of wood and wind. In the city of Bukhara, where traders once haggled in the shade of caravanserais and mystics walked barefoot beneath blue vaults, there remains a sound older than the bazaar's echo. The deep breath of the Dora drum, the trembling voice of a rhubarb, and the gentle sigh of wind through centuries-old wooden columns. The Bolo House Mosque, built in the early 18th century, still mesmerizes visitors, not with gold, but with symmetry. Its 20 slim wooden pillars, carved from elm and painted in faded reds and blues, rise like a forest of silence, reflecting perfectly in the pool before it. The breeze whistles through their flutes, and if you listen closely, it almost sounds like the prelude to a forgotten song. Nearby, the Ark Fortress looms above the city like a sun-bleached memory. Walls that once housed emirs and astronomers, poets and prisoners, stand beneath its gate at sunset, and the shadows fall like curtains on a stage where time performed its long play. Bukhara is full of whispers. In the Po-e-Kalyan complex, the great minaret, once called the Tower of Death, casts its shadow across baked bricks and pilgrims. Legend says even Genghis Khan, destroyer of worlds, was so struck by its grandeur that he spared it. Today, swallows nest in its crevices, and muezzins call from its heights. But the heart of Bukhara beats not only in its stone, but in its craft. Artisans shape knives with Damascus blades, knot silk into Suzani tapestries, and coax delicate perfume from rose petals harvested at dawn. Each scent, each pattern, each note carries something more than beauty. It carries lineage. Evenings here feel like time unraveling. The streets glow orange, the air smells of tea and mulberry smoke, and somewhere, someone plays the sato, a long-necked lute that sounds like longing itself. And in that sound, in that fading light, Bukhara continues to sing, not loudly, but clearly. The wind carried flame. In the isolated plains of Kazakhstan, where wind moves unchallenged and sky stretches unbroken, lies an ancient marvel forgotten by most maps, the Chilpik Tower, or Tower of Silence, a circular stone platform where the Zoroastrians once laid their dead, returning bodies not to earth or fire, but to sky. Perched on a lonely hill, the tower watches over the Amu Darya Delta, a land of fading rivers and lingering beliefs. There is no gate, no roof, only circular stone, sun-cracked and solemn, open to the horizon. It is a place of endings, yes, but also of balance. The ancient faith believed that no element should be polluted by death, so they gave their dead to birds and to wind. The silence here is sacred. Even the wind lowers its voice. Hawks circle slowly above. Lizards scuttle between stones warmed by centuries. And on certain days, pilgrims still climb the hill, not to mourn but to remember, to feel how time curls like smoke rising from a past both distant and deeply near. Further south, in the Ustyurt Plateau, chalk cliffs rise like frozen waves. Salt pans stretch for kilometers, white as bone. The Saiga antelope, with its strange tubular nose and haunting eyes, crosses the steppe like a prehistoric riddle, moving in small, fragile herds. They are survivors of climate, of collapse, of silence. At night, the desert sky turns into cathedral. Stars wheel above the dark stone of Chilpik, blinking over a land that has buried empires and yet endures. Uzbekistan, in the end, is not just a story of monuments or ruins. It is a place where belief was carved into earth, where nature and memory share breath, and where the past still shapes the wind.